Dr Christos Pitelis, you're director of CIBAM. How and why did you select the topic for today's symposium, securing food and water?
Well, sustainability and resilience have been throughout the 17 years of CIBAM and the 15 years of consecutive symposia the main underlying theme. This is a particular theme that has actually been selected and proposed by the Vice Chancellor of the University of Cambridge, who has proposed that this is one of the major challenges of future generations. That is, how do we secure, how do we sustain food and water? So in line with the traditional CIBAM model, the CIBAM approach, which actually involves bringing together global leaders from business, academia, government, international organizations and NGOs, we have put together a program with some leading speakers on this, and we are trying to see to what extent this issue is a big challenge and whether there are any solutions.
Are you surprised at some of the facts that have been emerging during the course of the symposium?
Some of the stuff is fascinating, both the information and where we are heading, and some of the unwillingness perhaps, or the lack of awareness and incentives to actually address this problem. I was fascinated by what Mr. Lopez said by Nestle, that indicatively, if every Chinese family decided to have one bar of chocolate per day, there is simply not enough cocoa in the world to supply this. I mean, this is one of the very many indicative things which have been discussed, and which actually shows also, and importantly in the case of water, that it's a very severe challenge to be faced there.
You have a group of businessmen, academics, entrepreneurs and all the rest of it discussing this issue. Are you surprised that there isn't a greater discussion, more public discussion about the importance of water and sustainability? It's almost as if we don't care. The water is there, we just take it for granted.
Yeah, well, that was the main theme of the conference actually, that there is very little awareness and very little incentive structures in place to address this. But it is huge and it needs to be addressed. And the problem is just around the corner. So if we continue like this, we will have great difficulties. And the demands we are putting now on some of the developing countries to not do what we have done, they are quite fascinating. It was only just mentioned before that 160 years ago, the life expectancy, the average life expectancy was 38. Imagine what is going to happen if countries which at the moment are in that position reach our life expectancy. Imagine what will happen if the dietary habits of people in developing countries move to our own. And imagine what's going to happen when middle class develops in the developing world with all the habits and aspirations that we have. In some ways, for all of these years, we live at the expense both of the future generation and importantly also of the expectations and aspirations of other populations in developing and emerging economies, which now we are even hoping to put demands on them not to do what we have done, so that we keep enjoying this fantastic life that we have reached, and fantastic lifestyle that we have reached. And as I said, Mr. Lopez was making exactly these very points, and it was so fascinating and refreshing to see somebody from the business world to put these challenges and to suggest what major companies like Nestle, like Diageo, like Coca-Cola, like other companies can do alongside government, NGOs and policy and international organizations to address these huge problems.
We're not just talking about future generations 2 or 3 times removed, we're actually talking about the next generation.
Yes,
That's frightening.
It was frightening. One of the speakers just pointed out that the projections are actually during his lifetime. So it is a very serious problem, and something needs to be done.